Good morning. On behalf of the Transportation Trades Department, AFL-CIO, our 33 affiliated unions, and the 400,000 frontline employees who build, operate, and maintain our buses, rail cars, and subway systems, I want to thank you, Chairman Crapo and Ranking Member Brown, and the members of the committee for inviting me to testify today. My friends on this panel have already raised the significant needs of our public transportation system, and I echo and support that call. Increasing federal funding is a critical step this committee can and must take to improve services across the country, not just for our members who work in the sector, not just for the millions of Americans who already rely on public transit each day, but for the family in Des Moines, Iowa, who has to walk 2 miles to the grocery store because the community in which they live is not served by the local bus system. But the Transit Authority would like to extend service there if it had the funds to do so. But I am also here today to talk about the needs and concerns of our members, frontline employees, and steps that this committee can take to address their concerns and create good, safe jobs in this sector. First, we must end the epidemic of violence faced by transit operators. While the FAST Act contained a bipartisan agreement to help stop assaults on frontline workers, 2 administrations have failed to implement this mandate, leaving drivers like Thomas Dunn in harm's way. Dunn, an ATU member, Air Force veteran, husband, and father, drove for the Transit Authority in Tampa, Florida. Last May, he was stabbed to death while on duty. Heroically, and despite his injuries, Dunn pulled his bus to the side of the road, ensuring the safety of his passengers. A few months before this incident, Dunn had complained about driver safety, and just 6 months after his passing, one of his coworkers was hospitalized after also being attacked while on duty. The Transit Worker Protection Act, introduced by Senator Van Hollen, would help prevent these tragedies. Under this bill, transit agencies would be required to gather accurate assault data and to work with frontline employees and their unions to identify real solutions tailored to meet local needs. Second, the spread of new tech-based mobility options, including ride-hailing services, shared scooters, bikes, automated vehicle pilot projects, is changing public transportation in our communities. What mobility options are adopted and how they are implemented matter. Ride-hailing, for example, may seem like a good, low-cost alternative for transit systems, but the appearance of affordability offered by the Ubers and Lyfts of the world are dependent on a business model that passes operating costs onto drivers and denies those same drivers the fundamental rights to fair wages and benefits that a union contract can provide. We know that automated transit pilot projects are already on the ground in a number of cities, and more are on the way. We also know that this administration and some in Congress are setting policies and regulatory frameworks designed to facilitate the deployment of AVs without considering the workforce impacts of new technologies and services. History tells us that strong unions and worker engagement are essential to mitigate harms caused by rapid changes in industries. TTD urges this committee to ensure that transit workers and the public are given a real voice at the table as any new automation services are discussed. Third, 90% of transit workers are bus and rail operators, station employees, mechanics, and other non-management positions. Yet federal policy has failed to support the training needs of this workforce, risking major shortages and skill gaps in the coming years. Furthermore, as technology evolves in the transit sector, we know that the needs to recruit, train, and retrain the next generation of technicians and other high-skilled workers will only expand. To address these challenges, Congress should provide funding for a transit training center that focuses on the needs of these frontline workers. Finally, we know that jobs created by investments in public transit are good jobs that workers can raise families on. That's because of high union density in the sector and because of federal policies that have been associated with transit investments since the creation of the program. It would be a mistake to use a surface bill to attack these important laws or to undercut collective bargaining. This committee must also strengthen and fully apply Buy America rules to public transit investments. Doing so will ensure that buses, rail cars, and raw materials are made here in the U.S., creating the kind of good jobs that we can be proud of and supporting another critical sector of our economy. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.